right, let me get myself together for a minute. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay, so today I promised y'all that I would give y'all Avengers Endgame. I promised y'all that. But before we get started, I need to address some things. All right. Number one. All right. I know that some of y'all saw the tweets from yesterday, and you were concerned that I was gonna kill myself or something, and that wasn't the case at all. Some of you DM me and I explained the situation. It was fine. I don't have a problem. Like I said, I'm a person right now. You have to understand. Y'all have been watching me for years. So as far as I'm concerned, every video I attack is more of I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I'm gonna say what I want to say. The videos that you're seeing as of late is me saying I've got nothing to lose. So that makes me even more dangerous. Okay? That means you're gonna get a lot more personal shit. So with that said, before anyone freaks out and thinks that I'm going to kill myself, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to kill myself. All right. Not too long ago, I was diagnosed with a specific condition, and I just wanted to make sure that plans were in place just in case. Of course, it's not official, but I want to get a second opinion, and third opinion, fourth opinion. I want to make sure. That's what that tweet was all about. Getting my people that I care about, families who have been good friends to me, and making sure that they have plan A through Z ready just in case of my untimely demise. Okay? That's what that was for. Other people that say that they're your friends or they say they care of you are stone cold fucking liars, and they don't deserve shit. Okay? Now, with that said, I want to talk about Endgame. Oh, you know what? Before even that, you know what? Some of you had asked, Vamp, you had said that in the Joker videos, and I want to thank you all for your kind comments in the Joker videos. And some of the stuff y'all go through is just, man, that really hits home. It's hard. It's tough. A lot of you contacted me on that, privately. Let me say that y'all had asked that, Endgame and Punisher are pretty much just, I watch those regularly because it deals about loss. And I had said to you that, I'll do Endgame, which I'm doing today, but I won't do Punisher because if I go down that rabbit hole, I'm not coming back. But like I said, I don't feel like I got nothing to lose right now. So you're going to get Punisher season 1 and 2. You will, it depends on how my mood is. Because one day I can give you Endgame, one day I can give you Punisher, or whatever. It depends on how my mood is. Because Endgame is almost 3 hours long, and there's a lot of characters that we need to dive into, which will be the rules of this Endgame, okay? We will start with the beginning, but then as it goes along, I am going to do character breakdowns of every character that is in Endgame and how it affects them after what happened in Infinity War. So yes, it's a long series. So you have to understand, some people will get tired of hearing that. The monotony needs to be broken up. And I would probably have to do Punisher in the middle of it. And I really didn't want to be one shot, but it depends how we get through Endgame, okay? So let's start with Endgame. Captain America says, we're in for the fight of our lives. 5 years ago, we lost friends. We lost family. We lost a part of ourselves. For me, it was 6 years ago. And what y'all don't know, because I haven't told many of y'all, because still, trust issues, and people saying they trust you, and then you find, they really don't. It didn't happen just once. It happened twice. So losing a part of yourself is something that happens when there's loss. So how does Earth's mightiest heroes deal with loss? I mean, we've seen through other movies, like Age of Ultron, they lost Quicksilver. There were losses, but they weren't on this monumental scale that Thanos did when he did the snap, and trillions of people around the universe died. How do you deal with that type of loss? That guilt. because you had a chance to try and stop them. Everyone is banking on you to stop it all, and you're powerless. How do you do that? So, for me, that was a tough pill to swallow because watching them try their hardest. And I'm not going to try to go back too much in Infinity War and all that type of stuff, but you have to understand Endgame does reference a lot of these other movies. You know, that it's a culmination. So, as we know, Tony Stark. I want to start with Iron Man because this all started with Iron Man. All right. In Endgame, Iron Man sends his message and talks about how there's only 48 hours left of oxygen, and he was really hoping to pull off another surprise, you know. And he's talking to Pepper. He's just like, thought I could do it, but I don't think I can, you know. You know, he was like, don't put this on social media because it's gonna be a real tearjerker. And God bless Robert Downey Jr. for playing Tony Stark the way he did. I mean, excellent. And you can see that Iron Man is fading. But in the entire time that Iron Man is, because as we know, Iron Man has always been, and you know, Steve and him always go at it, Steve Rogers, and he always talks about how arrogant and self-centered Iron Man is. But if you notice during Endgame, in the beginning scenes of Endgame, he's trying to teach Nebula humanity. You know, they're playing paper football, you know, and she knows nothing of that. She's learning herself how to be more humane. That's the entire point. You're spending time with one person, getting to know somebody. There's times where Tony Stark is like, look, there's not that much food left. Here's some food. And she's like, no, you take it. That humanity is there. You see it in each scene. It's there. So, to see Tony wither into pretty much nothing after being wiped out by Thanos, his entire team being wiped out by Thanos, except him and Nebula. Tony feels this is the end. He's not going to make it. And then Captain Marvel comes along and saves him, you know, which is something that needed to happen, which is, I'm actually happy it happened. I know a lot of people don't like Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, and all that type of stuff. I don't give a shit, okay? I'm personally a Brie Larson fan. I've liked her since United States of Terror. I liked her in Scott Pilgrim. Like, I understand she said a lot of things during Captain Marvel that people didn't like, and hey, it is what it is, all right? But it's not going to take away from her performance. So she saves Tony and Nebula, and she brings them down to Earth. And Tony has this discussion with Steve that is so important that I don't think people understand just how much hurt Steve is taken by Tony, because Tony's just lashing out. At first, Tony's happy to see Steve, and he stops and he says, "Is Pepper? You know, is she?" And he's referencing Pepper because he's hoping that Pepper isn't dead. She hasn't been faded away. And then he sees Pepper and he's like, "Oh, good," you know. So when Tony is sitting in the chair, and he's asking about, he's like, you know, Tony, you fought Thanos, you know, what happened? And he's like, I fought Thanos. He was like, no. He was like, I didn't fight Thanos. He was like, he wiped my face with a planet while the Bleecker musician, you know, gave away the store. That's what happened. Because he's like, he couldn't stop him. And, you know, Steve said, neither could we. And I don't think it registered in Tony's head when he was trying to, you know, when they were that talk where he was like, we tried to stop him too, and we couldn't. So we lost as a team. But I understand what Stark means. Because he was like, you know, you're nothing but a bunch of old mules. You're new blood. We need you. I like you, but you're not. He's like, I got no coordinates. I got nothing for you. He was like, I have no coordinates, nothing. I don't trust you, liar. I know how that feels. But you also have to understand this goes back to Civil War. All right? This goes back to Infinity War, which jumps back into Civil War. Because Tony has to explain to Bruce that, look, me and Cap fell out hard. You know, remember, in Civil War, Tony thought that everything that was going on was the right way to go about it. You know? And Cap, of course, fought against it. And Tony realizes that in Civil War, he's wrong. and he's just coming for peace until he sees that tape of Bucky shooting his mom, and that sends Tony over the edge. That's what sends it at the end. And then Steve sends him, that message saying, "Look, I understand how you feel. Maybe even I was being selfish by holding that information back from you. I thought it was helping you, but in the end, I realized it was only helping me because it was too hard to tell you. But if you ever need me, here's my phone number." And in Infinity War, Tony hesitates so much on calling Cap, and Bruce has to remind him. He's like, "Look, Thanos is coming. People are going to die. Look at what's going on. Your problem with Steve right now not talking? Yeah, very minimal. Call him." And he's getting ready to call him, and then that's when Thanos comes down to Earth. The children of Thanos come down to Earth. So it's a distraction. But he hesitated so much on calling Captain America and getting the team together. You know what I mean? And getting Vision and everybody. So they could be fully prepared. So a part of that is Tony's fault. So even though he's giving all this anger towards Steve, Steve is just sitting there taking it. He's taking gut punch after gut punch. And I felt bad for Captain America in that point because it was like, yo, he just wants to get back what we lost. Like I said, you put yourself in your shoes. If you had a second chance to bring back all these people, whether they're murderers or pieces of shit, you don't know trillions of people around the world, would you risk your own life to bring people back? And I remember Steve going to a group therapy session and telling people, it's time to move on. You have to make the best of what you have. Because if that was the case, Thanos would have killed us all. He wouldn't have killed half the universe. He would have killed us all. And so the world is in our hands, and we have something to do with it. We have to do something with it. But then you notice that Cap knows that he's lying to himself too. Because when he talks to Natasha, when they're at the headquarters, he says, I keep telling people to move on and have a better life and try to be better people. And Natasha's already broken down because she's like, we lost so many people, and even though they're gone, I'm still trying to be a better person. Which is reality. That's reality. That's anybody. That's you, that's me, that's anyone. You lose somebody and you still have to try and be a better person to get through it. But Cap's response about trying to tell people to move on, telling people that, we have to do something about this, move on, have a life, do all these things. He was like, I've been telling people to move on, in all these type of places. And some of them do. They do move on. He's like, but we don't. We don't. So Cap knows that he's lying to himself, which is very interesting because that's not the very Captain America way. He's a very straight arrow type guy. This is why I love the fact that the way Captain America is played in this. I really love the way it is. So, as you notice, I've upgraded, no more coffee. Now we're just straight booze. I don't give a shit. It's I got nothing to lose. So, like I said, mind you, this is just a precursor to when we'll start the character breakdowns next week for each and every character. I just want to give you all a narrative of how we're going to start this. So, when that happens, they want to try and get the team back at one point because Cap is still talking to Natasha, and Cap says, you need to get a life. And Natasha says to him, you first. So they're just bantering back and forth. And it's good to see because here, again, you have heroes who don't know how to cope with loss. This is their first time. They don't know anything. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's really hard to watch. I've watched them both in the theater. I've watched so many people cry during Infinity War, especially the Spider-Man scene. So many people cry, and then to come down to Endgame and have Stark just blast on Cap like that. He was like, I wanted suits around the world, regardless if it protect, if it was, hurt our precious freedoms. And Cap said, and that didn't work. And it wasn't about Civil War at that point. That was Age of Ultron. All right? Because you have all these suits, and then they start learning themselves. You know what I mean? They evolve. You know? So it didn't work. And Cap knew it wasn't going, it didn't work. But it's fine. He's not trying to hold Tony to it. He's just saying it didn't work. That simple. He was like, we needed suits around the world. I told you guys. He said we would lose. He said, Cap, you said that we would lose together. He was like, and you weren't there. And I'm thinking to myself, again, Tony, if you would have called Cap, you probably would have been there. But you didn't. Because Tony had the right idea. And I'm not going to lie. He had the right idea. Once Doctor Strange was put on the ship, and Spider-Man was a stowaway on the ship, and Tony was on the ship, and he's asking Tony, he's like, Tony, can you get us back to Earth? Can you get us back to Earth? And he said, yeah, I could, but I really don't want to. And Doctor Strange was like, why? He was like, we saw what they could do at Earth. They will destroy Earth. They will rip Earth apart and all these innocent people apart. I say we take the fight to him. And I agree with that. So they meet up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and we all know how that goes. And Peter's plan was actually really good until Peter lost his shit. But again, if you would have had some extra strength, that gauntlet was coming off. They almost had that gauntlet off until Peter started hitting them in the face. That gauntlet was coming off. So, again, Tony made the right play by staying where it was at and keeping it neutralized. But as we know, Tony doesn't know. Thanos could just walk through portals and come out. He doesn't know. So, Endgame, for me, was a lot of loss. A lot of heartache. Watching your favorite comic book characters go through so much shit. I mean, like I said, I may start with Thor. Thor had it the worst. Thor had it the absolute worst. But I'll give y'all a little something today. I gave y'all a precursor. I'll give y'all a little bit of something. I'll start with the Hulk. How about that? Because in Endgame, as we know, Thor and, Asgardians, half of them are dead. Loki's still around, but he ends up being killed. Hulk comes out of nowhere and starts going at Thanos. And Thanos shows that, look, I can match you. And here's the thing. I don't think that he could have matched the Hulk if he didn't have the Power Stone. I think he has more technical ability fighting-wise than the Hulk, but I don't think that he could have matched Hulk, because when Hulk grabs him, he grabs Hulk's hands and he just bends him. And Hulk's like, what the fuck? And it's like, it's the Power Stone. There's nothing you can do about it because he's that strong. So he shuts down Hulk. I mean, he absolutely destroys Hulk. But they transfer Hulk out of there. And, fine. Thanos thinks it's a big mistake. Kills, starts killing people. And Thor's like, you're going to pay for that eventually. And Thor is a man on a mission. Because Thor has it, like I said, Thor has it the worst. But when Hulk goes down, when Hulk comes back in the Endgame, he says, when he's sitting with Natasha, Captain America, and Ant-Man, he says, first Hulk lost, then Bruce lost. Because mind you, Hulk wouldn't come out during Infinity War, all right, at the end. So he had to use the Hulkbuster armor. So you have 3 times that the Hulk has lost in pretty much one shot. Hulk lost, Banner lost, then we all lost. And he blames himself. And Natasha says it's not your fault, and he's like, no, but I blame myself. And I understand that. Because it's like, the Hulk is the strongest, one of the strongest, if angriest, weapons that, that Marvel has. And it's interesting because in Infinity War, if you're paying very close attention, when the children of Thanos come down, and Banner's standing next to Iron Man, and Tony turns to Bruce and says, why don't you go get a piece of that? Go get a piece of that. And he's like, I really don't want to, but... And he literally says, but when is it ever my choice? When he said that, and Tony was like, you're right. You're right. And when he said that, I'm thinking to myself, that's the mentality that Bruce Banner has. He never has a choice of his own. And that's sad. So he tries and he tries, but Hulk won't come out because Hulk is still upset over what happened with Thanos. He feels if he can't beat Thanos, he can't beat these guys coming down here. You know what I mean? So Hawk doesn't want to be bothered. So, Banner stands down. Tony does what Tony does best, turn into Iron Man and does his thing. So then he has help with Spider-Man, and we know the rest is history. I think the mentality of Tony Stark in this is that Tony thinks he can do everything on his own. He's always thought that he can do everything on his own. And that banter between him and Doctor Strange shows that. Because Doctor Strange is like, I don't know how you put that head in that helmet, you know? And every time he's talking to Doctor Strange, he's like, yeah, well, someone who is not employed by you is not going to sit here and listen to you like that. You know what I mean? So Tony has a communication problem. Because Tony is used to being in control of everything. And that's the thing. While Captain America may be the leader because he has the most war experience, Tony Stark acts more like a leader than Captain America does until it's time for action. So pretty much Cap is sitting in the background like, go ahead, talk your shit. Go ahead, talk shit. Because you're a genius or whatever. Because we know back in the day, what are you outside of the suit? And he was like, billionaire, philanthropist, blah, blah, blah. What are you? You know what I mean? Like Tony Stark is a smart ass, and he's confident in what he can do because he's so fucking smart. You know? I think that with Endgame, when you have heroes, and that, like I said, that's the biggest thing for at least this video will be, is how do you handle such tragic loss? How do you do that? Now, of course, this is a little bit different than a Joker video when it comes to losing, but they find their way. We'll get into that later. But how do you lose trillions of people, and you're trying your hardest to stop it, and you can't stop it? There's no stopping it. They came up with a good plan in the beginning. Catch him by surprise, cut his arm off, do what you need to do. But by then he had already got rid of gems. And Thor, being Thor, he went right for the head because he got tired of it. Once he said he was inevitable, I was like, just take him. Just take him. I was already on board. Take him. And Thor did that. So, like I said, Thor has probably one of the worst arcs. Thor, and I think maybe Hawkeye, has two of the worst arcs when it comes to loss in this movie. And I just think that with Tony, the way Tony operates, and Avengers Fallout, and Tony, since he still has Pepper, he has a child. Because he talked about it, even before, in the beginning of Endgame. He was like, I woke up and I thought we were pregnant, and, eventually we'll get married or whatever. And even Doctor Strange comes out and he's like, yo, congratulations on the wedding. And he's like, are you selling tickets? You know what I mean? Like, who are you? You know what I mean? I've never seen you. But Tony gets his second chance when everyone else wants a second chance. Once Ant-Man comes back, because let's be honest here, Ant-Man is the hero of this movie. He is. Without his plan, his time heist, none of this happens. Without the Pym particles, none of this happens. So as far as I'm concerned, Ant-Man is the hero of the movie. Alright? Doesn't matter what else. Ant-Man, without his plan, it doesn't work. Stark tweaks it kinda, but that's not the point. This is Ant-Man's movie. It is. So, either way, when Scott finally comes out of the quantum realm, and he starts talking about quantum theory and all that type of stuff, they want to go to Tony. They go to Tony, and Tony says, look, that's a 1 in a billion fluke or whatever. I'm not trying to hear it, and Cap turns to him and says, look, I am seriously happy for you. He was like, but we got a second chance to help all these people that we disappointed, that we let down. And Tony's like, I got my second chance. And I can't risk that. I can't roll the dice on that. I can't take a chance and die knowing I have a daughter and someone I love. I can't do that. And then when they're walking away, Natasha's like, he's scared. But Cap turns and he's like, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Who would want to take that chance? So we're just going to need a bigger brain. And that's when they start picking the Hawk's brain. But like I said, time is up. I will start with character bios for Endgame next week. I will give you one at a time, and I will just let y'all know, exactly how I feel about each character. Um, I feel every character that had screen time, that had a good amount of screen time, was very important, very important. Um, but that's just the beginning of Endgame. I don't want to go too far into Endgame just yet, narrative wise. So again, I would like to ask you, as a person, if you had the power, if you had the power, would you risk your life to try and bring back people that you didn't know? If you had a chance to try and bring back people you didn't know, we're not talking your friends or your family or whoever. We're talking trillions and trillions of people that you don't know on how they act on an everyday basis, and you don't know. Are you selfless enough to do something like that? Because that's the question that Endgame gives you. Could you be able to do it? And if so, if you think you can do it, and you think that I'm going to go out there, I'm going to risk my life, well then, as the moniker says, whatever it takes.